There we go. Welcome. I see we have our first attendee in. There we go. We'll just give it a few seconds so that we can have all of our attendees join in before we do the introduction. But I want to ask these participants that have joined us to, in their chat function, just tell us who they are and where they're from, so that we have an idea of where our audience is from today. We had yesterday's session was a very international audience, actually, a lot of South Africans and other parts of the world. Welcome to you guys having joined us already. And I will do introductions to everybody online as soon as we know a bit more about you guys. You guys will also be able to make use of the Q&A function during our session. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Q&A. We'll be answering questions throughout and have a part at the end where we can ask some questions. So I see today we're going to have to encourage the group on here to tell us who they are and where they're from. There we go. We have our first person, Amber, and Amber's from Johannesburg. Juanita, welcome. Again, Juanita is one of our best attendees on our webinars. She's from Queenstown. Then we have Orlinda here from South Africa. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much for joining our session. I think you guys will find it very valuable. We have Logan here from Cape Town as well. Welcome, Logan. Jason from Bloemfontein. We have a good demographic already, just based on the first few. We have Atom is in Botswana. Linda, currently based in New York. Onesimo from Johannesburg. Letha from Johannesburg. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I think I am going to take this time. Hi, Nontu, also from Botswana. Zara from KZN. So I think we're very well distributed. I am going to take this time to just introduce all of us. I think most of you guys know me. I'm Gillian Klutter, the Associate Director of Golden Key in Southern Africa. Welcome to another one of our webinar sessions. At the back, we have Natasha Maharaj. Natasha is our membership manager. She'll be helping and assisting with any questions you guys have at the back. And then the most important person here today, we have Barbara Ayisi. She's the founder and managing director of Puzzle of My Life. She's an alumni of the Fortune 500, United States, and Vital Voices International Women's Mentoring Program, where she spent a month in the US being mentored by female executives from the Fortune 500 organizations. Upon her return, she committed to paying it forward by implementing mentoring programs for girls from underprivileged communities. Barbara is passionate about seeing young people realize their true potential and living their best life. She believes that anything can be achieved when it is conceived in the mind. We have to be mentally well to conceive those dreams. That led to her Puzzle of My Life, which provides a gateway to mental health through access to professionals to guide us and assist us in navigating us through life's journey. It is a great pleasure to introduce to you guys Barbara. Thanks, Barbara. Barbara, I cannot hear you at this point. I just want to make sure. Natasha, can you hear Barbara?
No, I cannot.
Okay, let's quickly see what's going on.
Okay, can we try again?
There we go.
Now I can hear you.
All right, perfect. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Barbara Ayisi, and I'm the founder and managing director of Puzzle of My Life. I am so excited to be part of this session, and especially because I know that you are top performers, top achievers in your various institutions, and I am humbled. I'm humbled to be in the company of such greatness, for lack of a better word. And yes, as Gillian introduced me, I'm the founder and managing director of Puzzle of My Life, but it did not start there. I've had my own journey, and I'm going to take you a little bit through the journey, because that is what creates the passion that lives within me. And I'm sure some of you will also relate to some of the journey that I've been. So I'm quite old, so I'm going to try and take myself back quite a number of years. So yeah, if I forget some of it, please do forgive me. But yes, I am the last child of 4. And as a last child, I was daddy's favorite. And on top of that, if I may add, I was, one of those intelligent ones. You would find me, if I wasn't with my books, then I was, busy doing something productive. So I was, that child that, didn't do, nothing wrong. I will tell on my siblings when they were doing something. So they hated me, but my parents loved me, and that sustained me. Anyway, so in my matric year, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and that was such a blow to me. In fact, my dad was the one that I was actually quite close to, because he was an English professor and very much into the academics. So we would read together, and he would push me to tell him about what I'd read. And I actually started writing books as well at that time, and he will, push me. He was actually the father who, when you come home with 95%, he would ask you what happened to the 5, because he believed so much in you. Anyway, so when he was diagnosed with cancer, at that time, my oldest brother and my sister, the first 2 were at university already. As I said, I was in matric year, and my brother and myself were in the same level, which is matric, because I was promoted. I jumped a class. Yeah, so that was quite hard, and I had no one to speak to, because my mom was sort of, or is, because she's still here. So she's the tough one, the tough nut. She's a nurse, a retired one now, who would, tough and tell you, toughen up, and roll with the punches, So I had no one to talk to, and my hero, who was my dad, was going through something so devastating. I remember when they sat us down, the last time my sister and my brother actually saw him, they sat us down to tell us that, from what the doctors were saying, he had a 50-50 chance to live. And well, that was actually not the truth. The truth was that he had been told that he would not make it, and he had been given 6 months to live. But they told us that, it was a 50-50 chance. And I was like, there's no way. 50% for me was a high percentage of him living. So I dedicated my whole time in trying to read. Those times it was, we didn't have all the Googles, etc. So I'll go to the library and try and find, we had, a set of encyclopedias at home, and I'll try and read as much as I could, and, very limited information. And I will read especially about people who had gone through adversity and made it, and I will go back to him, and I'll encourage him, and I'll say, oh, let me read the story to you. And I'll read it to him, and, I could see how excited he will be, and not knowing he had accepted the fact that he was not going to live. Anyway, long story short, he passed away after 7 months of being diagnosed, and it was very hard for me, extremely hard for me. That was my matric year. He died in hospital, and I think my last visit to him was a Sunday, and just seeing how he had deteriorated, I lost it. And he actually told my mom that because I was writing matric, maybe we should stay away a little bit. And that was the last time that I saw him. And so I finished my matric. I missed the whole turmoil. and got accepted at Wits to do medicine. And that was because my mom had said, you will do medicine, you're intelligent, you'll do medicine, and that's the end of it. And I couldn't negotiate. That was the time, I mean, my dad was sort of not well at that time. And, you know, he was like, you know, I know you could do it. So, you know, just do it. And so I went into Wits and I did first year medicine. And at that time, in my confusion, having just lost my dad, I just couldn't cope. And again, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone to speak to. I didn't know who to speak to. And I remember there'll be times where I will just, those days, there were the buses that used to run from Braamfontein into Eastgate. I will jump on a bus and just sit in and just look out the window and wonder if, you know, because I would have read, I had read books about how the soul, you know, can be around, etc. Anyway, so I will just speak to my dad outside the window of the bus and look around to see if, you know, if I could catch a glimpse of him somewhat. Anyway, so I went through that and I hated every minute of medicine, hated it. I'm not sure whether it's because of what I just experienced or it was because I just wasn't interested. Right now, I know that that was not for me. And I wish I had the opportunity to have explored what was actually, you know, what I was supposed to be doing. So I failed, yes, and left the university, came home, gathered the courage to tell my mom that I wasn't going to go back. I didn't want to do medicine anymore. I had failed anyway. And I remember my mom didn't speak to me for I don't know how many months. But we lived in Pretoria at that time. And in February, I watched others go, you know, back to universities. And I decided to go to University of Pretoria and to see if I could enroll. So I got there and the lady said, you are so late. And the only space that we have is in human resources. So that is where we can put you. And again, I was like, okay, fine. If that's the only space for me, I will take it. So I went and did my BCom. Those days it was called personnel management. And our major course was human resources. Again, I'm telling you the story because, you know, when you don't live life intentionally, sometimes you will just be tossed and just accept anything that life throws at you. So that was, again, a default of just taking on anything that came my way. So I finished my qualification and went, you know, started a role in a recruitment agency. At that time, recruitment agencies were new. And yeah, it was interesting times. And one of my clients was Rennie's Travel. And they headhunted me. So as I was recruiting for them, they headhunted me to become an account manager for them. Remember, I'd done my BCom in human resources. At least the recruitment agency was more aligned. Again, by default, I joined Rennie's Travel as an account manager, which is more of a sales role, looking after their key accounts. I enjoyed the interaction with their clients and problem solving, etc. But in hindsight, it was not in line with what I was supposed to do. So from there, my career then grew into sales. I joined, one of the 4 banks. Let me not really mention their names. So yes, started my career there as a sales manager. I remember I was 24 at that time as a sales manager. I was sent to one of they call it their rural banking, so very Afrikaans type of area, sent there as the manager there. I remember taking a photo. So I was a sales manager, and with the branch manager, we took a photo and it was in the newspaper. And we had visitors into the branch just to see who is this person who thinks she could actually be the sales manager of this branch. Anyway, I just flourished there, started learning how to speak Afrikaans, and they were they would get so excited about the fact that I was even trying to speak Afrikaans, and they would laugh, and we built rapport, because of the efforts to make the most out of that. And so, yes, my career grew. I moved, to other banks. I finished off in one of the 4 banks as a national sales manager. Now, I'm telling you this because there comes a time when you are not living in the purpose of which you're supposed to be living. There would always be something inside of you that would call you. So I found myself being the resident counselor, if I should put it that way. Even whilst I was executing my sales role, and because I always had teams to look after. So as a sales manager, I had a sales consultants. As a regional sales, I would look after the sales managers. As a national sales, look after the regional sales managers. And I was always this mother, this confidant, this person that people will come to. And that just happened by default, naturally. And I just found such fulfillment doing that. And another thing was that I would watch people being in one position for a long time and not having any ambition to do anything about where they were. And when they would speak to me, they will say, oh, I've been in this position for 10 years and I'm not getting a promotion. And I would ask them, but what are you doing to equip yourself if that's what you want to do? Equip yourself for the next role. Instead of being despondent in your current role, why don't you be the best at it? So that when a conversation is taking place, your name comes, your name is put on the table. So these are some of the engagements that I would have, and I would see how people were just growing, and my consultants started studying, started getting promoted. And I remember sometimes I was asked, but why are you losing people? Why are you losing your people? And for me, it wasn't about losing my people, because it was about seeing them becoming. Actually, I'm going to put a full stop there, becoming, because we all become, and for me, I was so excited just to see how they had discovered themselves. Some of them changed roles completely. I remember one of my sales consultants studied accounting, and she currently has a BCom and an MBA, having gone through her whole accounting studies, has actually finished off her MBA just a year ago. I've kept in touch with her to this time. So it gave me such fulfillment. And yet I was in a role that was so not aligned to what I was supposed to do. So in my last role, I really started becoming, I felt like, let me do something about this. If I don't do something about this, it seems like I would not do anything about it. So I started studying my counseling diploma. I did it online, and I that's when I actually came across online counseling. So I started it through Blackford, and Blackford is an overseas company, so they know about online counseling, and none existed in South Africa, in Africa, actually, to be exact. So that is when I started looking into counseling, online counseling. And then I got a job as the HR manager of a multinational company. And part of my role was the project manager for their wellness. So I was instrumental in implementing the wellness program in the company. And I saw how the wellness program was not taken up, even though it was a free offering. I saw people were not taking up the counseling and the therapy aspect. So I started doing some investigation to find out, why is the uptake so low? And the number one reason is that of the stigma attached to mental illness. So people have this thing of, no, if anyone finds out that I'm going through something, then I'm going to be looked down on, or I'm going to be stigmatized, etc. And I found that quite disturbing, because here you are able to get help, and you are not getting the help that you need, not knowing that we actually don't even understand what we're going through to start with, let alone the help. We don't even understand what we're going through. And that I discovered that by myself when, being in that company, being a wellness project manager. At that time, the BEE thing was on, so I became the triple BEE manager. I was the resident counselor as usual. And then I also took on recruitment for the company. So I took on many things, and I couldn't cope at one point. And so I reached out, to our wellness program. And when I engaged with a counselor, and she said, I saw her face to face, and she said, you are depressed. And I thought, what do you mean? I'm not depressed. I'm just tired. I'm doing, so many roles. I'm just tired. And that's, that's it. And I'm a bit teary, nothing to it. I'd had about 2 or 3 sessions with her. And she said, you know what? Let me check you into an institution just to rest for a couple of days. For me, that was not going to happen. How can I go and rest when I had so much to do? And I didn't even understand this depression thing she was talking about. What does she mean? We all go through something. I'm just going through something. Anyway, long story short, I was hospitalized. Me thinking I was going in just for 3 days, just to rest over the weekend. Took my laptop with me, took my phone with me. I was going to just lie down and do work anyway. And she didn't tell me that they wouldn't allow me to have my laptop and my phone, because she knew that there was no way I was going to go in there. And so, yes, I went in there and started working away. The following day, here they came to take away my laptop and my phone. And I thought that was the end of the world. Like, how can I exist without my laptop and my phone? And yet I learned such a valuable lesson there. And the lesson was, you need to take care of your health. And your body, the health in your body starts with health in your mind. That is when I started understanding what this whole mental health thing in as it applied to me. Because yes, I was a wellness project manager. I was studying, but when it happens to you, especially when you think nothing of such could happen to you, and you are on top of your game, and it's for other people. Let me help other people to discover themselves. Let me help other people to find their careers. Let me help other people. But no, I'm good. After all, I'm the one with all the answers, isn't it? But just to go through that process, to open myself. Yes, initially it was resisting, but then as I started opening myself, did I get to understand the importance of mental health. And that if you are not mentally well, and that comes in all forms and different understanding of that, because it could be depression, but it could be anxiety. It could be a bereavement. You've just lost someone. Or it could be that it's a more serious chemical imbalance, like, some people have bipolar, etc. We all have something or will be going through something. In fact, research shows that 1 in 4 people will go through something at some point in their lives. 1 in 4, meaning how many of us are in this group? We will go through something, or we have gone through something at some point in our lives. And when we don't have the professionals, let me call them professionals, to help you to navigate this journey, or to compartmentalize what we're going through, then it takes over completely. It takes over our lives completely. So let me give you an example. You could be going through a relationship problem, but other areas in your life is actually going fine. So your health is fine, your studies is fine, etc., etc. But because of that relationship problem that you're going through, it can actually take over your entire life. It becomes, I cannot cope. I cannot cope because I'm going through this. And one of the things that I learned was being able to compartmentalize what we go through and tackle it as one component versus letting that component take over our entire lives. And then it becomes the magnitude of it becomes so much bigger than what it actually is. Another thing I learned being there is the fear factor. So sometimes it's not even about what is going on per se, but it's about the fear of what could happen, or what if this happened, or what if this had happened. And we go through that and we actually get exhausted. We exhaust our minds, we exhaust our bodies, we exhaust our lives by looking at what could happen, or what if this happened. Another thing, and the last thing I'm going to touch on, is I remember, and where I got Puzzle of My Life, you know, the name Puzzle of My Life from, is it's the name of one of the classes that I actually attended whilst I was hospitalized. It was called Puzzle of My Life. And they helped us again look at, and that is where the compartmentalizing came in, you know, the different puzzles and different pieces of our lives. But I remember very well in the session, there was a lady there who she had been hospitalized. Most people had been hospitalized because of depression and bereavement and anxiety, etc. But she had been hospitalized because she had been demoted from her job. So she was in a role and had been demoted in the company, and she couldn't cope with it. And I remember when I spoke to my psychologist, so every day I'll have a session with my psychologist on a one-to-one. When I spoke to her and I said, I can't believe, you know, somebody can be hospitalized because of something as little as a demotion. And I remember her telling me very clearly, so she said, Barbara, when you meet someone, what do you ask them? So I'm like, okay, someone new, normally it will be, you know, their name. Okay, so you'll ask about the name. And she said, what is the second or third thing that you ask about them? And the next, you know, the question is, oh, what do you do? So she was like, you know what, we downplay the identity that we have in what we do. So when what we do has been taken away, you know, has been taken away from us, you don't realize the impact of that, because then all of a sudden you don't know who you are anymore. So I was like, wow, okay. So that taught me the lesson of don't look down or downplay what somebody else is going through, because it's about what is the impact of what they're going through. And why I'm sharing that is because often we may be going through something, or somebody else is going through something, okay? If we can identify or we can relate to what they are going through, then we almost justify it, or we say, oh yeah, I can understand, you know? But when somebody is going through something that maybe we think it's nothing, or we could handle it like this, then we almost lose the sympathy or the empathy that is required, you know, to support. So Puzzle of My Life is about, yes, we are human beings and we go through something, and all of us will go through something. But number one, you don't have to go through it. You don't have to go through it alone. There are professionals who are actually trained to help you to channel this journey. And secondly, the stigma, yes, the stigma is real, whether we like it or not. So if you feel, you know what, I'm not able to cope with it, yet I don't want anyone to know that I'm going through it, there is a way, there's an anonymous way for you to reach out and get help. But we must all get help. It's not because we call it so many things. We call it crazy. We call it, even in our African cultures, we call it you've been bewitched. It's called so many names. And yet, as I said, 1 in 4 people will go through something or will be going through something at some time in their life. So us who don't understand what is going on, we don't understand what depression is, we don't understand what is anxiety, etc. We are just quick to call it anything or call names, and then the person who actually needs the help is actually left with not wanting to do anything about it because of the fear. So yes, I'm not sure what you're going through, and maybe you understand it and maybe you don't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I can just imagine the challenges that, especially these times of COVID-19, that has compounded our already on where I didn't what I didn't finish. But I was just having a chat to her, and I was saying, that you can reach out, right? Just trying to let her understand that that it's okay, whatever it is. I know we speak a lot, certain things that maybe you can't talk to me about. And I want you to reach out, because help is at hand. Don't ever think you need to go through anything by yourself. And the next person, including your own mother, will go through something, and it is okay. So COVID-19 has presented its own challenge. It's presented anxiety. It's presented the fear. What next? What will happen? Will I still be able to be on top of things? What's going to happen when I go back? Will my studies ever be the same? Am I alone in this? Why am I feeling like this? There's certain times when even professionals are asking them, those little demons start talking to you, and you are in a state of confusion. So I can only imagine you younger ones, who are such go-getters and aspiring to be, to be so much more, what you could actually be facing at this time. But the message is that a lot of us are going through that. You're not alone. Get the help that you need, and don't let the stigma, no matter what it's called or however that is called, get you down. So yes, it's time to take some questions, and I hope that me sharing my story has inspired you a little bit, at least to say, you know what, we all have a life journey, and it comes in different stages and different forms. And yeah, it's not the end of the book. I'm still in the book and still in the chapter. And yeah, if I could give any help to you, in my fulfillment, really.
Yes, I agree with you, Barbara. Sorry, Barbara. I want to read to you some of the comments that we've received on the chat. And we have our first one saying, wow, that's so true. Not to judge people that is going through something else. And we have another agree, wow, really appreciate you sharing your story, Barbara. And we have a member saying, I need to hear all of this, thank you. So I think if you guys have any questions for Barbara, you're welcome to put it in the Q&A. Then we will read it out to Barbara so that she can give you some feedback, any questions, any advice, anything you need. Now is your chance Thank you. Zara also said inspiring, loved it. So we had a discussion earlier to say the first person on the Q&A is always the bravest one because as soon as one person asks a question, the next will follow. So we have our first one. So what tools or skills does one need to have to be there for others?
Okay, so we all have different skills. And if I have to take it away from the formal skills, which is getting yourself qualified to be able to help others, which will come in the form of getting a formal qualification, etc. If I take it away from that, and I look at it from the informal of, here I am needing to offer help to someone. I think the first skill is listening. Okay, so sometimes we just need to be a sounding board to someone. Just being available and being open to just listen. And there's something called active listening. When someone is speaking to you, there's certain cues that you give to the person to say, I am listening to you. One of them is, nodding your head. So as I'm speaking to you, you're nodding your head. Nodding your head is not saying, oh, I have the answer, or saying, oh, I know. But nodding your head is a form of acknowledgement to say, I'm listening. I'm listening to you. Active listening is also about asking questions, So as somebody is telling you something, if you don't quite understand what they're saying, you can, what do you call it? Not asking a direct question, but almost, it's called testing for understanding. So you can test for understanding because it's important that you understand what the person is saying. So listen. I know in our busy lifestyles, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to give ourselves time to be there for others. But so what I do, for example, I know I'm very busy. So what I do is I tell myself every day I'm going to reach out to one person, just one, and be there for someone, and just anyone that, one of those that drops in my, I call it drops in my spirit at that time, I will just reach out. If it's just saying, just saying hello. So listen and be there, be available. And as I said earlier, don't judge. Don't think, but that is so little, or, oh, I can't believe that, you are crying about this. There's a reason why this person is crying, that particular thing would not make you cry, but the fact that it's making someone else cry or unhappy means that it's affecting them in a certain way. So that alone should tell us that it is big enough for them. So understanding that, yes, somebody's going through something, and let that be the priority, that they are going through something and it's big and you're there. And then ask, how can I support you at this time? How can I be of support? Because maybe you think that, they want you to offer something, but maybe they just want you to just listen, or maybe just, so you say, just to be sure, how can I support you during this time? I hope that answers that question.
I think it definitely does. Our next question is, how exactly do your services work? So I think it's just the explanation of how to get online for the free counseling.
Okay, so we have counselors of different, so we have registered social workers, we have licensed counselors, registered counselors, we have counseling psychologists and clinical psychologists. So they are registered on the platform, and the service is not generally free, but specifically for Golden Network, and for the COVID-19 people that are going through something, you know, because of that, be it whatever it is free. So we have ring fence. So I reached out to the counselors to say, who is able to offer their services at this time? So we've ring fenced them. And when you go onto the platform, you sign up as a user, and it will ask you where you're coming from. So are you from an organization? You say yes, and you will get to use the drop down arrow to select Golden Key Network. And then you will get counselors. So you'll be asked a couple of questions, and the counselors will come up, and you get to select which counselor you'd like to engage with. And between yourself and the counselor, you can decide, we will meet at a certain time, we will engage at a certain time. That is entirely up to you. Or it can be right throughout the day. Understanding that it's not real time. So your counselor may not be online, okay? But the agreement is that they should get to you at least within 6 hours. They should respond to you. So it's all text-based at this stage. We are enhancing it to be able to take on video calls and voice as well, but currently it is text-based. And I know that the youth likes to text. Research says that 70% would rather text than pick up the phone to call or sit down in front of someone, because we want answers quickly and at our fingertips, and we're used to that. So for now, that is, we're offering it through text, and it will progress as we go. Just to add as well that we are also in development with Indigo Vision to do a star, you can say star 1, 2, 3, star 3, 4, 5 hash, and select your psychosocial conditions. So for example, select 1 for anxiety, 2 depression, 3 relationship, etc. And we will send you on a weekly basis, we'll send you advice, information. So what are the signs of depression? Some tips in terms of, like, for example, what you must eat, what foods you must eat, exercise, and so that is coming as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Barbara, what I will do is I am going to share my screen for a bit while we go through the next questions, because this just tells them the step-by-step that you guys gave through to us, just in a very simple image. I just want to make sure you guys can see my image.
Yes, I can see it. So
okay,
I'm sure they can as well.
There we go. Yes, then we can have that up for a bit while they are busy signing up, for example.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm going to read out. Orlando Mafika asks, how does one go about encouraging someone to get help without insulting them?
That is a difficult one. Because often people are in denial, and even though you can see someone going through something, they will tell you they're not going through something. My advice is, don't call it by name. So if you're not a professional, etc., don't call it by name. So don't. Jillian, your mic, are you saying something? Oh no. Okay, all right. So, okay, all right. So don't call it by name and say you are depressed or you are, you're going through this. Just say, especially when they come to you, or when you sort of reach out and you're listening to them and they're talking to you, then you have to seize that opportunity to say, you know what, there are professionals that can actually help you, with that. Or I don't have the answer to this, but I can recommend someone who maybe can help you. Or you can tell your story. A story is very powerful. Tell a story. Tell your story. If it's not your story, tell someone else's story. Don't lie though and say you went through something when you didn't. because often we can read through um, empathy, you know, whether whether you are genuine or not. So if you haven't gone through it, you can use somebody's story, you know, or yeah, just say, you know what, I haven't gone through this, but I can only imagine what you're going through. So accept that you haven't gone through, you haven't gone through that, but you can imagine, and so therefore would they be open, you know, to that. So let the person understand that they are not alone. People go through the same journey, and I'm sure if I get other opportunities to speak to you, I will share even more, you know, more with you. So we all have a journey, and I think when people know that they're not alone, that it's not unique to them, that other people are actually going through similar situations, they'll feel more comfortable to actually do something about it. My dad had a saying that, you know, if you think your problems were a lot, ask a group of people to come and all heap. So bring your problem, I bring mine, you bring yours. Let's put it all in one heap and share it equally amongst us. And you'll find that the piece that you brought is actually smaller than what, you know, than the piece that you get after it's been shared equally. So we all going through something. And yeah, we don't have to think that, you know, ours is bigger than the next person. You'll be very surprised. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, then we have Banolo that says, thank you so much, Barbara, for your inspiring life experiences. I would like to know, how were you able to overcome moving into a new path or journey, the fear of the unknown? And secondly, I've been struggling to find a mentor. How should I go about finding one?
Okay, so I think I discovered what my strength was. And I shared with you when I went to, it was actually Polokwane, but not, I don't know if you remember Polokwane, and then we have Mokopane before you even get to Polokwane, which is even more of a rural place. So, you know, I discovered that I'm good with building relationships. So in anything I use that strength to anchor myself, quick skills, journey, and profession into where I am now. I built relationships with those that know more than I do, with those that have extensive experience in the area that I wanted to be in, and not being ashamed about it. Ashamed to say, I don't know, ashamed to say, oh, tell me a little bit about this. Or when something is said, to say, I don't quite understand this thing. Tell me about this, and tell me about how this works. And you know what it does? It actually makes the next person feel acknowledged, feel important, and they will be so happy to share. You know, people are actually quite happy to share of themselves and of their knowledge. So yes, I use that. And the fear of unknown, the fear is real to everyone. And you think, oh, maybe I should have stayed. And especially when you see other people. So I left some of my colleagues in the bank, and you know, when you read about them being the general manager of this and the director of that, or I see somebody on TV that and I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe this is what I would have become. But it comes to the fulfillment. It comes to the fulfillment when you can be as successful as you determine success to be, but there is something inside you that will always have, be this void in your life that almost seems not to be fulfilled until you do what fulfills you. So one of the mentoring programs I run with the young girls, I went with them on camp. So we went away for a week. I had, at that time, I think there were about 60 girls on camp. And my husband came some of the days, and he could see how hectic it was, And on the last day of the camp, as the girls were going home and the buses had arrived, we were all sobbing, like we were crying my eyes out, crying, just, it was, I couldn't believe they were leaving. And my husband, later on said, were you actually crying? Like, aren't you exhausted? I saw what it took out of you, 60 girls on camp. And I said, you don't understand. You don't understand how fulfilling it has been for me. So the fulfillment will always be the number one, the number one thing. So that makes you braver. Acknowledge the fear, get the help, have people around you that you can engage with, and you can be vulnerable to say, what, I don't know, help me here, and do what fulfills you. So find what it is. And I know it may be a bit difficult because it took quite a long time for me to get there, but that's what gives me the passion to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do. So talking about mentoring, you asked a question about mentoring. My advice is get a mentor that can be an example for you. So you want one that you can relate to. You want one that can relate to you. You want one that can understand the journey and where you're going. But even in that, be clear of what you want from them, because you can have more than one mentor. There's nothing wrong with that. But be clear on what you need from a mentor right from the beginning, so that it's not let's have coffee, let's chat, let's laugh, or let's talk about this, and maybe that's not what you need. So you first be clear on what you want and what you need, and find someone who can relate to you on that and connect with you on that level. And once you've, excuse what I'm going to say, once you've used them, or once you've gotten what you want at that time, then you can have another mentor, or you can have one for this and one for that. So for example, in business, I have a mentor, Linda. I don't know what I'll do without Linda. There's times I say, Linda, I'm going to leave this. I can't do it anymore, because I know I need Linda for that. I need Linda for some sanity checks, and she's very patient. She knows how to get through the steps, and I don't want steps. I just want to jump from A to Z. So I know I need Linda. And when I'm with Linda, I'm like a child, because I know I need to get something from Linda, and I know Linda will give me what I need. And sometimes I go in a tantrum, but when I reflect, I know that this is actually what I needed, and I implement, because I have that respect, because I know what she's doing for me. I have another person, as well, for other things. So yes, get what you engage with a mentor who you can relate to, and who relates to you in what you need at a particular time. Hope that answers your question.
Agreed. Then we have a question on how do I answer the question, who am I? I feel that in order to track what's bothering me, I need to answer that first.
Okay. Interestingly, I get that question from adults. So surprisingly, a lot of adults don't know who they are. So forgive yourself if you don't know who you are, if you're not sure, or you're in that confusion. My answer to that is, you need to find some quiet time or moments with yourself. And in those moments, my advice is, what are people telling you? I'm not saying you need to listen to everything, but there's always an element of truth in obviously, please surround, and I know you are all, you're all young, etc. So You know, the dynamics could be, you know, I hear there's some things like, you know, haters and whatever else. So yeah, you know, with all due respect, but, you know, with the right people around you, what do they say to you? So, for example, for myself, when somebody would say, "Oh, you're good with people," I'll think, "Okay, yeah, maybe." But you know, when you hear it, when somebody says it so much to you, and when you see people gravitating towards you in that way, you have to find that quiet place to say, what is being said to me? What is it that when I do, I think I'm doing it so effortlessly and not even thinking about it? Then I'm being told, "Oh, wow, that was great." And you're thinking, really? Oh, okay. You know, I didn't know I was doing something exceptional. So the first point of finding who you are is what is being said to you? What are you being told about yourself? And sometimes it may not be all the nice stuff, you know, but what is being said over and over again, you know, to you, and find your space to hear those voices. Another thing is, what do you gravitate towards? So, for example, and I'm giving, you know, just should I call it a silly example? But for example, my husband and myself, when we're in front of the TV, what moves me? So he has this thing of, oh, they're showing your type of movie. And your type of movie for me is the one where somebody becomes something and they get through their challenge, and or those inspirational type of movies is my thing, you know, because it moves me. What moves you to laugh? What moves you to cry? What touches your heartstrings? And that will tell you what, because you must ask yourself, why am I so moved by the hunger in Somalia and the next person isn't? You know, why do I tend to like this and the next person doesn't? So firstly is, what do you do effortlessly that you would think, oh, but I did this without even thinking about it. Oh, I'm happy to stand in front of people. Oh, I'm happy to do that. You know, I don't even think about it. And yet I'm getting all these compliments about this, you know? So the effortlessness tells you that there's something there. There's something about that there that you need to explore. Then what pulls at your heartstrings? And what are people telling you? What is being said to you? Because there is an element of truth there. So I hope that answers your question. And yes, last but not least, is you are privileged to have access to information, you know, have access to information, to research. So use that. So my son, my second one, I know he's very good with the computer and things like that. And he tells me he wants to be a computer scientist. And I'm like, great, but do your research. Show me that you are interested in that. So he joined one of these coding things for young people, and I can see how he's enjoying coding, and he's enjoying his marks. He's top in his class when it comes to computer thing. Yeah, you can see that is not my thing. You see, I'm calling it computer thing, you know? If it was something that, yeah, I think I'm just giving my age away. Okay, yeah, so what do you gravitate towards naturally? But spend that time, get that revelation, get a quiet time with yourself, and, you know, dissect. And also that's what mentors are there for, to help you with that.
Thanks, Barbara. Don't feel bad. You're not the only one that's challenged technology-wise. I'm in that same boat, but I'm learning. We have the next question. It is from Anonymous that asks, how does one actively overcome a toxic work environment where your superiors go out of their way to deprive you of the resources you need to grow as a student? And how do I continually expose myself to the environment without having my growth hindered?
You know, the saying that you are the master of your life is true, whether we like it or not. We are the master of our lives. Yes, acknowledging that the environment plays a role, and the environment may make it harder for one person versus the other. So, for example, you are on the sea and the waves are hitting. Depending on the strength of the wave, it will demand a certain effort. But you are still the master of that ship. So what the environment is doing, you have to find a way to overcome that. So if the work environment is, for example, toxic, or it's not giving you what you need to then say, okay, this is what I'm going through right now. How can I navigate through this storm and through this journey? Because again, I remember what I said earlier on about compartmentalizing situations. Everything will not be smooth all the time. So maybe this time around it's the work environment or the studying environment which is giving you grief or stress. You need to then look at it and say, this is environment that is causing me problems. And that is when you need to come with some energy into that. So when I'm facilitating emotional intelligence and we talk about purpose, gifts, and talents versus the job you're in, and if it's not aligned, what do you do? And I facilitate with people who actually hate their jobs, and yet they can't afford to leave because of what the job offers them. So then what I tell them is, then you need to generate the energy, that extra energy that you need for that, wavy sea. You need to generate that energy somewhere. And where do you get that energy? You get that energy from the things that you're passionate about. So if you're going to let the job overshadow those things that are going right, for example, your passion, then it will take over everything completely. But if you're able to compartmentalize it and say, this is that compartment that is not going well, but 5 other compartments are going well in my life. And one of the exercises I'm going to give all of you from today is, I want you to draw the puzzle of your life. When you go back today, draw a puzzle. And in that puzzle, in every puzzle piece, put in your the different aspects of your life. So studies, family, health, money, and I know you're all broke, so I'm sure one of them will be, every student says they are broke and yet they are not. That's just a joke. Yeah, so compartmentalize your life in your puzzle. Okay, the puzzle can be any shape. And the piece of the puzzle that is not going well or in sync with what you want, color it a different color and say, this is the puzzle. But then you need to identify the puzzles that give you passion and energy, and make sure that you do something about that puzzle just as much as you're doing something in the puzzle that doesn't give you so much joy. Because you have to, obviously. I mean, I can't say leave work or leave that. You need to face those fears, but make sure that you are channeling some energy somewhere that you need to apply to where you are. So you know that you have a place where you run to. You have something that you go to fulfill you, whilst that situation is out of sync. Then you need to understand what you're going through and need to know what do I have control over. So for example, my own personal example is my different managers that I've worked for. And I get my colleagues saying, but why is it that you get your way with this one? You know, who is so like this and like that and like that? You know, when we go there, it's a no, but when you go there, it's a yes. And why do you have such a good relationship and we don't? And my answer to them is, I make it my business to understand the type of person that this person is. We all have areas in our lives that is not 100%. And when I know the weakness of my manager, I support them in that weakness. So then they see me as, let me give you a real example. My last manager was petrified, and he was the director of, you know, the people, you know, it was like the HR director. I have never seen an HR director that is scared of people, because he's more of the industrial relations type of person. So because I know he's so terrified of people, I will offer to help him with that. So when he needs to speak to, say, the new stars, he will say, Barbara, you go do it for me, type of thing. Or when he has to do it, I'll be there to support him. So when he's fumbling a little bit, then I will sort of like, you know, come in, or, you know, help him with that, introduce him, and, you know, give him just a small portion to do, and then I'll do so. So I'll work with him on that. And he was always so grateful. And I would check in with him as well, because I know he's a human being. There's a reason why he's like X, Y. So I'll say, hey, how are you? I'm just checking to find out how you're doing. And yeah, so you need to find your points. So first understand the situation and find the areas where you can actually use to maybe change things around it. Maybe you may not be able to change it around completely, but find those areas that you can maybe use as your, should I call it, loophole, to make things a bit better. Even with the studies, I'm not sure, there were quite a few questions. I'm not sure if I missed any aspect of the question. So you're welcome, Natasha, to just highlight any area that I may have missed.
I think you have covered everything on that one. Gillian will then read the next question to you now.
Thanks, Barbara. I think everyone's going to do their puzzle so that they can identify those areas. Our next question, or our next person says, I have struggled with mental health since I was 11 years old. I was bullied throughout my school career. I ended up in a mental health institution twice in 2014 and twice in 2015, one of which was long-term rehabilitation. I got better and was mentally healthy until the lockdown. I was diagnosed with being bipolar about 2 weeks ago, and I hate it because of the stigma. How do I accept myself now?
Again, we all have something called something, okay? So, or we will, as I said, 1 in 4 people will go through something or are going through something, okay? And so I know that when we are giving like when what we are going through is giving a name, we almost carry it like a burden. I have bipolar, I have depression, I have anxiety, and it becomes our little burden that we are carrying. But firstly, I will say, understand what it is. Understand, get as much information as you can about it. It is real, okay? Mental illness is real, and it affects a lot of us. You're not alone. You're not alone at all. I personally know people close to me that have bipolar. So it is real, and there's nothing to be ashamed about it. It's about being able to manage it. It's about being able to embrace it, because that is going to be one of your puzzles. One of the pieces of your puzzles is going to be that you need to compartmentalize and say, this is in its compartment, okay? And deal with it in its compartment. And don't let that be your name. Because flu is a name. You know, there are names, there are different names to different illnesses and different diseases. So there are names, but you cannot say My name is Barbara and I have flu. My name is Barbara and I have this. That does not define you. So I can imagine the challenge that it poses to you, especially at this time, because you would want to engage about it, etc. So please use the counselors to help you, to help you with that. You can reach out to me personally, and I can arrange for you to engage with one of the counselors that is a clinical psychologist that I know is not part of the Golden Key Network, but I'll call on my networks and my favors, and I will be able to help you with that if you need, that engagement and that help during this time, and you're not in a position to pay, to pay for it. I will be able to assist you with that. But don't let it define you. Don't let it be your name. Find out as much information about it, understand it, and especially with bipolar, know your triggers. Okay, and I don't want to go into a psychological engagement, but know your triggers, know what sets it off, and be one step ahead of it. So, and that's, if you've been hospitalized before, etc., I can imagine that you've gone through a process where you've gotten to understand and you know what you need to do. I'm assuming that. So even the triggers I'm talking about, I'm sure you know of it and you've heard of that. Be one step ahead of it. So if you know that the seclusion, which unfortunately has been, placed on us, and it's making it even more difficult in already difficult, situations. Don't be alone in that sense. Like reach out to someone to speak to, reach out, and to try and help deal with the situation. But I think my main thing is don't let it define you. Don't let it define you. Otherwise, we'll all be defined by so many things. I didn't tell you, I did get divorced at one time, and I realized that I was being known to be that. And I said, no, but that has got nothing to do with me and who I am. That does not define me. That is a decision that I made, and I stand by it. So it will not define me. And yet there are people who get very ashamed and cannot, live life because of that. No, that is a decision that we need to make and stand up for what we believe in. And so, yes, you are going through this, but that is something that people live happy, productive lives with it when it's under control. So get the help that you need.
Okay, the next question we have, when looking for a free online counselor, what's your advice on finding the right one?
Most counselors are trained across different psychosocial conditions. So they are equipped to assist in various psychosocial conditions. However, there are those that have specialized in a particular psychosocial condition, or they've gone that path because they're passionate about it, etc. So to choose the best one, if I can use the word best, will be more about, this is what I'm going through and I want someone who is a specialist in this. But otherwise, most counselors are able to assist you in most of the psychosocial conditions, really. So it's about also it's also about a connection factor, because I may be experienced and knowledgeable and all that, but maybe we're not connecting in, for whatever reason, and so in that instance, you're not comfortable to engage with them. So when I was hospitalized for my depression, there was a girl there that had been there for, you stay there for 21 days. I think she was on her day 17 or so and hadn't opened up to her psychologist all that time. And they were so frustrated because her 21 days was almost up and she hadn't engaged. And I don't know what it was. I don't think it had anything to do with me. And maybe because we were all in the same place, or I don't know. She just happened to open up to me. And she asked me if I wouldn't mind going with her to see her psychologist the following day. And I said, sure, I will go with you. So I went with her the following day, and the psychologist told me, wow, I'm so surprised that, that she's opened up to you. And yeah, so then at least she got to get some time to engage. But one thing she said to me was, it's because I really felt that you were not judging me, and I felt that I could just break down, or I don't, so sometimes it's just about how you click as well. So, but I think the most important thing is about what do you need, and do you need a specialist who will be able to help you with that. But most of them are specialists anyway. They can help you in any, because at the end of the day, they just help you to to navigate through what you're going through, get a better understanding, and get perspective, and help you through that. So you'll find yourself actually being the one going through the exercises and the process, and that, so they help you to do that.
Thank you, Barbara. We also have a question about what would you do to heal yourself mentally and emotionally?
To heal yourself mentally and emotionally, get knowledge, get understanding, understand what you're going through. When you don't feel alone in something, so for example, look at COVID-19. It is so serious, it's such a life-threatening situation, yet we're going through it together. It's affecting everyone, and you're not looking at yourself and say, oh, I'm alone in this. The situation applies to everyone. And so it's important that you understand that whatever you're going through, it's not unique. It's not unique to you. People go through it. People will go through it. So if you're going through it now, you will get through it. So it's not going to, if you don't allow it, it's not going to overtake you. You will get through it. And if it means that you need help from a professional to help you, then that's fine. But get through it, you will, and you are not alone. And so you need to, once you get to read more, I just love to read by nature. But when it doesn't come naturally to you, but you need to get the understanding, then you need to force yourself to read. You need to force yourself to research. You need to force yourself to understand what you're going through, and that will help you. Also, have you found that when, for example, you sit in front of the TV and something sad and stuff is going on, it actually changes your mood. All of a sudden, you may have started off fine, but then the mood has completely changed. And once you start crying, then you're going down this journey. I don't know if it's me and my mental illness, but I can create something that doesn't exist in my head. And all of a sudden, it actually, I start feeling the thing. I think I used to do that as a manipulative thing for my parents. So I can create something. So what I'm trying to say is that what you feed yourself will positively impact you or negatively, and when what you're feeling is not taking you down the road of where you want to travel, then you know that you need to do something to change that mood. And it is a choice that you have to make to say, I'm not going to let this define me. It's a choice you have to make to say, I'm going to overcome this. How do you get to make that choice? Is by getting the knowledge and getting the information and getting the understanding, by reading what other people have done, by listening to what other people have done. Motivational, I have my motivational session every single day. I don't miss it in the morning. and I listen, and because I know after I've done that, there's suddenly a spring in your step. Not that your problems have gone away or things have changed, but you just need that boost to almost set you on the right path. So you have to do an action, and that action can take different forms, whether it's listening to something motivational, reading, but knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and get the knowledge that you need about the situation, and read more about what others have done and gone through it, and take that step. And again, I can't stress enough that sometimes it's a bit too much for us to handle. Get help. I can't stress that enough. Get help.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Our next question is, can you give any advice on online courses to study counseling?
Okay, so it depends if you want free courses or paid courses. So if it is, these days, I love Udemy. I don't know if you've heard of Udemy. I'm sure you have, all you students. So I'm always on the lookout for something free, something highly discounted. So it could be a course that will maybe normally cost over 1,000 rands, and then on Udemy you get to do it for say 100 rand. So you get those bargains going all the time. But you can subscribe as well to Mental Health Network, subscribe to those. Obviously, they would want to, most of them would want to sell you something after that. There's really nothing for free, but subscribe to those mental health blogs and those, mental health network. You use that as an ongoing information. There's a wealth of information that sits there. The paid ones are many. I mean, South African, sorry, it's not coming to my mind now, but there's South African courses. If you want to do a formal course, it doesn't have to be the full psychology course, but you can take it in different modules that you can pay for and do. So that just I can send it through later, but Blackford University, but you have to, those are all paid courses. If you want to go the free route, just join some networks. I can also give information on that. Join some networks, get some highly discounted Udemy courses that are quite good.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Then Naya would like to ask, what is the first step one can take when trying to bring themselves out of a slump, be it academically, emotionally, etc.?
If you have people around you, so friends, family, etc., talk to someone. That is the first step. Acknowledge this is what you're going through, because the denial prevents us from even taking, but I'm assuming that you've gone past the denial and you're saying, I want to take the first step. The first step is talk to someone. Talk to someone that you trust. Talk to someone that, you trust, that they will at least they are not professionals, but at least they can, they will listen to you. They'll listen to you and not pass judgment. And if you don't have anyone like that, after the lockdown, please find someone. Please find a good friend. We all need at least one good friend that we can talk to in times like that. So yes, talk to someone. That would definitely be the first step. And obviously, depending on, we are spiritual beings, and spiritual means different things to different people. So again, reach however spiritual means to you, whether depend on your religion. You can be Christian, you can be, so I won't prescribe anything, but whatever spiritual means to you, if it's meditation spiritual, if it's Bible spiritual, reach into that, that deeper side.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. The next question is, how would you suggest one approaches a counselor if they would want to get help but don't exactly know how to do so?
Well, Puzzle of My Life is there, and it's free, and they're there. So I will say, reach out there, sign up, get a counselor, to help you, and don't think that you have to have defined what you're going through before you reach out to a counselor. Say, I don't know what I'm going through. I don't even know what I'm going through, but this is how I'm feeling. They will actually ask you, tell me a little bit about this. How, describe to me how you feel, or describe to me. So they have a way of getting you to frame, they call it, frame what you're going through. So they will help you do that. And then from there, you build on that. So take the step and reach out. Sometimes it's just a day, just a sounding board. So I've seen some of you, have reached out just on the live chat to say, I'm going through that and that. And it's actually ended there, just a sounding board. That is perfect. That is perfectly fine. It's not about mental illness. Okay? It's also about just a sounding board. Or I'm going through this. What do you think? They wouldn't really, they'll ask you the questions for you to find your answers, but even just to get some perspective. So psychosocial conditions is not about, I have a mental illness, I have to be having a particular mental illness. No, it's about, I need some perspective. It's about, I'm going through this, or I'm unhappy about this, and that is perfectly fine.
Thank you, Barbara. I agree. Having the soundboard is great, and I think that a lot of the people online also understand that now, to just get someone to soundboard to, basically. We have a question from an anonymous attendee asking if it's possible to self-diagnose depression, and if so, how?
To self-diagnose depression would mean then that you need to know what are the signs and the symptoms. So again, that you will find even online, just research online. But some of the signs and symptoms are loss of appetite, you're not sleeping properly, you're crying often. Sometimes you're crying, sometimes you know why you're crying. So I've lost a loved one, I'm crying. But there's also the depression of, I don't even know why I'm crying. Or I think it's this and I don't even know. So, but it's making you feel down, as we call it in layman terms. And you're sleeping a lot. So you just want to sleep. I just want to shut everyone away and out, and I want to sleep. Or I've lost interest in activities that I used to do, etc. So the signs and the symptoms are there, and maybe that would help you to say, I think I'm depressed based on these signs and symptoms. But I'll say it's not even about the diagnosing, because I don't want us to get caught up in I'm depressed. It could be I'm depressed and I'm anxious and I'm in that a combination of many things. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I think what matters is that how do we overcome these things, and how do we continue to be productive? How do we when we look at those pieces of the puzzle, how do we have those strategies to tackle, firstly understanding which where we are at and what's going on, and how do you actually how do we overcome these things? What techniques are we applying in this particular area, to impact it positively, to take us to where we want to go, and the destination that we want to go. And that destination means different things to different people. And I'm going to tell you a joke. So my sister-in-law comes to visit me and I'm like, oh, wow, have a look at my bag. So I've always wanted a polo bag. So I said, can you believe that I finally bought myself a polo bag? I have arrived. And she said, well, it depends on where you're going. So you've only arrived if you've arrived where you're going, to your destination. So if a polo bag is your destination, that's it. If it's not, you haven't arrived, my dear. So it depends on where you're going. You only arrive where your destination is. And how do you know that's your destination? Is when you have that sense of fulfillment. When you say, I set my goals, and this is where I want to get to, and I got there. But guess what? And as you grow older, you'll get to know that we never really arrive, because human beings are created, that we never arrive. Once you think you've arrived, you're already aspiring to bigger and better things.
Thank you, Barbara. At least you can take your handbag all the places that you'll still go. So we have a question from Adam asking, would you say a mentor should be in your general field, say, for example, politics, or just someone that is inspiring who can help you?
Okay, so the difference between mentoring and coaching is actually a mentor is somebody that is more on a general type of field. So a coach normally will be so you'll find a lot of line managers are your coaches because they are in the job that you do. So for example, the studies you're doing, so they are in there, they can coach you on a specific things. But a mentor gives you more of a general, holistic understanding perspective. So if you want that rounded type of help, a mentor will be the best person, for you to do that. And I often encourage that your mentor should actually not even be in the same field as you're in at all, because then they're able to give you totally different perspectives on certain things. So you can almost trust that you're getting a totally different angle than how you will see things, versus somebody who is studying the same thing that you're doing or doing the same thing that you're doing. You find that you are like-minded, and like-mindedness doesn't mean that you are on the right path, especially when we want a rounded approach. So a perspective will come from a totally different, it's actually somebody from a different area completely will actually say something to you that will go, I didn't think about this, or gives you that perspective. But most importantly, it has to be somebody who's traveled a journey, who's traveled a road, tried and tested, that you can trust. And you really have to be able to trust your mentor, because as I told you earlier, sometimes when I leave Linda, I leave throwing tantrums. But there's one thing that grounds me with her is I trust her judgment. And after the tantrums have simmered, I'm able to then apply what she said. So the trust factor comes when you know that they have traveled a road. They have, they're tried and tested. So somebody well experienced, well balanced, and can help you, to add perspective, different perspective for you.
Okay, Barbara, we've reached our very last question for the day. How would you compartmentalize struggles that you are facing within your family to prevent it from affecting other aspects? And how do you learn to cope with your family grief and separate it from overtaking your working life?
Very, very big question.
Yes.
A question and almost an answer together. Because when you compartmentalize, you need to get an understanding of what is going on firstly. So you'll find that maybe, for example, your parents are going, I'll give an example, your parents are going through a divorce, okay? And you take that problem upon yourself. So And it's because of the way you see it. So you're thinking, maybe I had something to do with it. Maybe that, you know, and then we start sort of owning a problem that is actually has got nothing to do with us. Another thing is also understanding that I have no control. So human beings, we love control. We want to be on top of things. We want, and that's where planning can. We want to plan for our future. We want to, you know, we want to have control. And when control is taken away from us, it's a very difficult situation for us. So, for example, and strangely, bereavement does that to us. It really makes us see that we are not in control at all, and that in itself is so frightening and so scary. So we have to understand that we don't have, you know, it's like, you know, when you say choose your battles, but that is, I'm making it too light, but saying that, you know what, this situation is going on, this is an area in my life that is not, you know, this puzzle that is not going well. I don't have control. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't have any answer to this. And let it sink in that there's nothing you can do. So then it's, how do I cope with the situation so that it doesn't affect me? And that's what we call, sometimes you just need to make peace with certain things, like there's absolutely nothing I can do. And again, we have professionals that are there to help you. The first time I engaged with a counselor before my depression scenario was with, I lost a friend. My friend passed away, and she was that type of friend that was so full of life. Like, she would come and take over. I remember my son's birthday, she came and did it, you know, like her eyes were the brightest eyes that I've ever seen. So full of life. And she was asthmatic. And she was a workaholic as well. That's what we had in common. So often she will work on a Sunday, and we were in Polokwane, that Polokwane place. She'll often work on a Sunday, and she'll leave the children, her kids, with me and go into the office on a Sunday. That Sunday, she didn't come. She didn't leave the kids with me. Apparently, her son had gone to another friend, and she went to the office with her daughter. So she had changed handbags because it was on a Sunday. So she went to church, changed handbags, and left her asthma pump in the other handbag. So when the attack happened in the office, she didn't have her asthma pump with her, and her daughter couldn't drive either. It was a Sunday. So that is how she passed away. And I just couldn't accept it. I just couldn't accept it. And when the company organized a counselor, all they said to me is, Barbara, do you understand the meaning of never? And I said, yes, I think I do. And, you know, he said, you are never going to see her again. And you just have to embrace and accept it. And when you're sad, because he made me describe her type of person that she was. And he said, remember how she was and how she would be pulling you right now to say, hey, laugh, let's run, let's do this, let's do that. So understand what never means. And it seems like a simple sentence, but I actually walked away so free. So sometimes you just need to accept certain things and just move on. And easier said than done. And if it's not sinking in for you, get someone who will help you with that perspective for it to sink in. But we have to accept certain things and not own what doesn't belong to us. So children owning parents' things, they don't belong to us. It's their journey. We have our own journey that we're going to be traveling. And that journey is big enough and tough enough as it is. So let's not own other people's journeys and other people's mistakes, etc. But bereavement is one that really just floors us, you know, it floors us, and we are left with more questions than answers. But we have to understand that sometimes we just have to embrace it. There's nothing we can do about it.
Thank you very much, Barbara. And I am going to ask you this one last thing that the one of our members sent in, just because it's a recommendation. So they're asking if there's perhaps a book that you can recommend to read on emotional intelligence and how one can compartmentalize their emotions.
Can we engage afterwards? Because the compartmentalizing, I would want it in, I think I'll recommend more than one book. So emotional intelligence in its broad sense is saying, how do I react to certain things? So we have the EQ and the IQ, how our values play a role in how we are made up, and understanding a situation and reacting to it differently in a way that will take you to the outcome that you want. The compartmentalizing is more psychological. So it's a marrying of the two. And I think I would, if you remember to drop me an email, Gillian, I'll send you some recommendations. Yes.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And I think everybody on here appreciates your time immensely. We know you're very busy, and in this lockdown time, we're also very appreciative of our members and people like you taking time out of your busy schedules to make sure other people are sorted. So thank you very much. And from Golden Key's side, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of all of the participants today, thank you very much for taking the time, spending it with us. I see in the chats, members are also saying thank you very much. So we will be ending our session now. So thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we hope to see you guys tomorrow again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I am humbled. I'm really humbled to be in the company of all of you. And yeah, hopefully I'll come back sometime.
Definitely.
Barbara, so Elmi is also online now. And I also just want to say, I've actually only missed the first 40 minutes, but it was really very inspiring, very needed, very timely. And yes, I think it shouldn't be a once-off. I think we should look at having more than one of these sessions with specific themes, because you really make a difference. And that's what we need. We want our members to be supported, to feel special, and to feel that it's normal not to feel okay today.
Definitely. And we can certainly, take it theme by theme. So we can talk about a specific theme and, address a different aspect as well. Yes, most definitely. And thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's been an awesome time. I can't believe almost 2 hours has gone already. So simply just sat down.
Yes,
thank you
it's
so
quite
much.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thanks, Barbara.
All right.
We do appreciate you. And I will look at the recording for the first 40 minutes. I attended a memorial of a very good friend of mine that you may know, Professor Anton Stolz, that passed on about a week ago. Yes, so they streamed his memorial, and it was quite touching. But I had to pay my honors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having
everybody.
me. All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us.